What's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. We've got a very special episode today as Alex and Laura Britt sat down with the big man himself, Buster Posey, to talk about this already active offseason, talk about this year's Giants season, and much more. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. At Mancini Sleep World, every mattress is backed by our Rest Easy promise of a 365-night comfort guarantee with the lowest prices and next-day delivery. Visit sleepworld.com. Alex, fun fact, rotating your mattress every 3 to 6 months helps prevent uneven wear, sagging, and body impressions, extending its lifespan. If you're unsure about your mattress type, Mancini's Sleep World experts can help you find the best way to keep it in top shape.
I was going to rotate my mattress on Monday, but Giants have decided to keep us busy.
So. Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb for Giants fans could be just do a mattress rotation every time there's a major personnel change.
Just flip it all around.
Yeah, once a year.
That's the move.
All right, Alex, so we are sitting down after Buster Posey's end-of-season press conference and after you got a chance to talk with him alongside Laura Britt. Let's, I guess, just recap what the news that broke in the press conference was. I mean, obviously, the big question we joked about that there'll be countless articles about, countless talks about, is Bruce Bochy, and we already got closure on that one.
Yeah, not a whole lot of direct answers today, but that's generally been Buster's way. In a lot of times. So that was my first takeaway. But he did give us a direct answer about Bruce Bochy. And he said he talked to him a couple days ago. Since you and I last podcasted, I think we've been on this train that this just didn't make sense. The Rangers and Boch mutually agreed to part ways. They said he can stay as an advisor. Buster talked to Bochy and I think basically offered him the same thing. Happy to have you be here. You will not be part of the manager search. And I think a big part of that is just, look, Bruce Bochy's 70. And From what I've heard, talking to people who – I haven't talked to him, but talking to people who have talked to him recently, I mean, he feels like maybe he had like one more year left in him. But that was part of our thing is it just never made sense to be like, here's one more year.
And then we can do this whole song and dance again next year.
Or, you name the manager in waiting. But how often does that like actually work?
Yeah.
So, maybe it'll work in Texas right now with Skip Schumacher, but yeah, I think that was the main takeaway from today. Other than that, I think Buster's very open to anything in terms of a manager, in terms of fixing the roster. That was what we got a whole lot of today. So he's good at this. He's good at not making headlines.
Yeah. Bruce Bochy is not the only manager vacating a position this year. So I guess those guys, those experienced guys, are automatically going to be part of any discussion that a podcast like us has, and probably even any front office has. So Atlanta and Anaheim, I believe, both lost their managers.
I think Brian Snickers is out. Ron Washington is out. There were a couple of guys that got kept, but my main thing with this is just it. Part of this is a little bit who are you interested in and who else is interested in that person. And really seems like Albert Pujols is the clear front runner in Anaheim. That's the word coming out today.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what Atlanta wants to do. Certainly they're in a little bit of a similar position to the Giants in that they believe they should make the postseason next year. So there might be some overlap there. I think everyone believes Schumacher is going to get the Rangers job. I think we talked about him on Monday.
We did.
He certainly was somebody who I think would have been on the short list. So, but I look, we're reading tea leaves here. And again, like I think Buster was asked about, would you hire a college manager? And he's like, not going to say anything. Would you hire that? Would just not going to comment on individual people. But I would think he has a very specific short list in mind here. And you don't make a move like this without that being the case. But I just think he's had a long time to think about this and think about who he wants and, get in touch with people and figure out what he's looking for.
It's kind of makes it difficult because I get the feeling you're exactly right that he knows he's got a handful of names in mind and is very good at not sharing those.
Yeah.
So we're going to be able to throw a lot of names around over the next week, 2 weeks, however long this takes. And it could be someone just totally out of right field.
It could be. And one thing we talked about on the emergency pod is like he kind of has the pull to do that, right? Like if he does want to just go totally off the board, he could do that. And it just kind of be, I think fans would probably be fine with it for the most part, but really it'd be, he has the pull to do that. I do think we're going to see some more traditional, choices as well. You see some of the lists that are being put together. The guy I keep coming back to, and I don't know where this will go, but I do think the Giants have some interest in talking to Nick Hundley.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, I think I said this on Monday, he just checks a lot of boxes in terms of what they're looking for. But there are other Buster teammates that could be interesting. Maybe he'll go off the board, and maybe not like I'm not talking like Kane or Bumgarner or anything, but like there are pitchers he pitched with who I know want to manage, and some other guys he played with who want to manage. So he could go anywhere with this.
Are we ready to start the wild speculation here on this podcast? Because I've gotten a lot of crazy names from listeners who they want us to talk about, including, rivals behind the dish like Yadi Molina.
Yeah, I think Molina might be waiting for that Cardinals job.
I can't see him doing it for a team that's not the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think same. Pujols is interesting that his name is out there now. I mean, that would be hilarious. Like, here are 2 Hall of Famers. And easy jokes sometimes when the Giants score 1 run for 4 days in a row, like their best hitters might be the manager and the president of baseball ops.
Yep.
You start to see the smoke coming out of Anaheim today, and it sounds like that. And that feels like an Artie Moreno move, right? Like just
totally does.
I think they're paying him $1 million a year anyway.
Great. Here's a few more responsibilities to earn that paycheck.
Yeah. So just here's add whatever onto it, 3, 4.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're going to manager searches are really weird because you all of a sudden just hear from like the Tampa Bay newspaper that so-and-so their bench coach interviewed or something like that. So these are weird. It's really, for me as a reporter, I mean, they're really difficult to cover, and we will do our best to stick with the wild speculation. But right now I don't think there's any fire anywhere. I think there's just a lot of speculation.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's only so much we can get into the speculation now, and Buster Posey's interview is here waiting to be graced upon your ears. A few more topics to get to before that, though. One is the reunions. Giants have a handful of players who aren't contractually obligated to be on the team again next year, but seem open to reuniting with. And we've gotten mailbag questions about these. I've kind of been waiting on them until the offseason was fully in swing. But we're talking Justin Verlander, talking Wilmer Flores, despite his send-off, Dom Smith. What do we think, Alex? Are any of these realistic reunions?
I think Verlander's realistic because he fits a lot. Look, they need pitching. It was brought up over and over again, and Buster mentions it in this interview coming up. They need pitching. They need multiple starting pitchers. One thing I thought was interesting was when I asked Justin the other day about potentially, like, did you pitch your way into a multi-year deal? And he's like, I don't even think I want a multi-year deal. Like, I just want to go year by year, which fits in certain ways with this team that, maybe you go out and get one bigger, not bigger name, because there's no bigger name than Justin Verlander, but one longer contract. And then Verlander's your 5 or, so I think that would be realistic. It's really going to be up to him. I think he pitched to such success in the second half that he can, if he wants to, I don't know, pick a team closer to, he lives in Florida, I believe. So who's closest? Atlanta. If he wants to be a Brave, like he pitched well enough. If he wants to be on the East Coast somewhere, he pitched well enough down the stretch. The other 2 guys, Wilmer, that really felt like goodbye. I think
it really did.
Do it. Just not a fit for this roster. And in a weird way, I'll say the same thing. We've said this about Dom, even though one's left-handed and one's right-handed. I just don't think when you have, whether it's opening day or whether it's 2 weeks or whether it's a month, Bryce Eldridge is going to be on this roster. And he will be with Rafi Devers. And I just don't think you can have a third guy who is a first base DH type. So you need, because you look at a bench, you need your backup catcher, you need your backup infielder, you need your backup outfielders. Like, you need some flexibility there. And you can't just be, this is a little bit like when they signed Jorge Soler and right away they were like, oh,
where does this work?
He's only a DH, and nobody else can slide into that spot now. What if something happens where you need Matt Chapman or Elliot Ramos or somebody to DH for a couple weeks to make some injury easier for him, which happens. What if you need to give guys days in that DH spot and you're like, well, we have 3 of them. So, I just don't think it makes sense for either one of those guys. And we've said this before about Dom. Like, he was really good. And what's the upside for him coming back here to be the 7th inning pinch hitter / occasional defensive replacement at first, and maybe, hey, go take some fly balls in left field? Like, that's not really it.
No, Dom's going to get a nice starting contract somewhere after what he did this year.
I hope so.
We will smile when we see him, pop up in the headlines for doing something cool. And I'm curious if Wilmer will continue on even with another team. I mean, he's 34 at this point. He's performed a little worse year after year. Still has those big moments of clutch, but that's a guy I would love to see come back in the Giants organization in some kind of non-player role, in player development, or who knows, because he's been such an influential figure in the Giants clubhouse and, I don't know, just for this fan base for the past 5 years.
Unrelated to our current topic, he can manage one day if he wants to.
We didn't say his name, but you saw I put him on the list of our names we should mention. Yes, on the emergency pod.
He will be in that group of former players that if he wants to, you could see some of the Instagrams just from even like guys who played here like 3-4 years ago on Sunday and Monday. Like, the respect he has from current and former Giants is just off the charts. So maybe there's a bench role for him somewhere. If not, I think he has a family and he has some things off the field that he probably can spend a few years doing. But whenever Wilmer decides that he wants to be a manager, I think he will get a bunch of interviews right away.
Yeah. All right. So beyond reuniting with those 3 guys, I think we already had discussed on this podcast that Verlander was really the most realistic to come back, especially after the second half, especially the late second half he had. What else is the focus this offseason?
Pitching. That was really the one. I mean, there's no specifics today, but that was the one thing that was somewhat specific, was just how often pitching was brought up. I think Buster mentioned outfield defense is something that they can improve on, which they could get a lot better there. But I think pitching in general which is obvious, right? Like, that's going to be the entire offseason. And you and I will, a couple of weeks, maybe we can go through that whole free agent group and see who's out there other than Verlander. There's a couple names that stand out to me right away. But
yes.
But yeah, we will. That it's going to have to be pitching. It's going to have to be bullpen too. So.
The final topic worth noting before we get to the Buster Posey interview with you and Laura Britt is Bryce Eldridge. He had left wrist surgery, not predicted to impact his spring training. I think it said it was an 8-week, fairly short recovery. But what do we think is this? Is this a red flag? Is this already the big fella is having injury issues after only 2 weeks in the big leagues?
No, I actually think it's a green flag because he dealt with some discomfort in spring training and clearly was not right the entire year. And it wasn't like nothing jumped off the page when he was up here, except for go to his Baseball Savant page and go to like hard hit percentage, barrel rate, things like that. All of he hits the crap out of the ball. Obviously, we knew that, but he did it even in a small sample here against big league pitching. He's up there with the Judges, the Stantons, the Otanis in terms of that. So to do that when you're not 100%, I think is a positive. And it's 8 weeks of recovery, and I think Bryce planned to go home anyway and spend the first few weeks of the offseason at home and resting. It was a long year for him. So I don't think this impacts anything. I think hopefully he's fully healthy coming into next spring. And yeah, we'll see how the Giants feel about him, about what his opening day status, on February 13th or 14th, whatever it is. But I think he'll be totally fine.
All right. With that, let's take it to Buster Posey. Before the interview, of course, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. At Mancini Sleep World, every mattress is backed by our Rest Easy promise of a 365-night comfort guarantee with the lowest prices and next-day delivery. Visit sleepworld.com.
So, Buster, the search begins for a new manager for the San Francisco Giants. How do you personally go about preparing for something like this? And do you have a mentor that you lean on and kind of pick their brain?
Interesting question. How do I prepare for it? Well, I've never done it, so it's it'll be a learning process. But I think as much as anything, you lean on a lot of relationships that I've made in the game for the last 20-ish years. Got a lot of good people around me. I've got people in the front office that have gone through this process before. So I think you lean on them, and I'm always open to one thing I have learned in this job is there's a lot of opinions flying from a lot of different directions. So I'm open to hear people's thoughts.
It's when you take your phone and you put it on work mode, so you only get specific text messages, right?
Yeah, that's what Kristen mentioned that the other day, and I need to be better about that.
There was a stretch of games at home this year where the Giants lost 14 of 15. How much did that impact this decision in moving forward with the new manager?
I don't know how much you say it impacted. I mean, that was a tough stretch for us, but from my seat, I'm trying to look at everything and not necessarily a 2-week stretch. Undoubtedly that was a tough time. And I'm trying my best not to go back through some of those stretches and say, what if we'd won half of those games, where would we be? I'm sure every team does that. I'm sure every team can point to specific times in the year. But overall, I think it was just a decision to get a different voice, different direction, maybe a little bit different style of motivation and leadership.
The two previous managers, very different, but both of them I covered, and they're both very serious individuals in different ways. Strikes me, and I never played, but that's maybe something that's difficult when you go into a slide to find your way out of it when that's the personality of a clubhouse. For lack of a better term, do you just need somebody who's maybe has a different energy or brings a lightness in stretches like that?
Yeah, I think in these type of roles, that energy or that lightness, it can come from your personnel in the clubhouse, from the players. It can come from, as you mentioned, it can come from the manager, it can come from coaches. I don't think it necessarily, you have to pigeonhole that specifically on the manager. But I do know there's a ton of value on what happens, not only on the field, but interaction in the clubhouse, on the plane. So you take all that into account, I think, when thinking about this. And, I hesitate too, because I do have such respect for Bob Melvin, and sometimes it's hard to answer some of these questions because I feel like I'm indicting him in a certain way. And so it's, when I'm thinking about answering these, I have him in mind as well, because I do have tremendous respect for him. And, unfortunately we didn't play type of baseball that I was hoping we would play. And so that's why we are where we are.
You said on Monday you're looking for someone who's obsessive about the details, obsessive about the work, helping guys get better. First thing that popped into my head was some of the guys you played with in your final season. I mean, some of these coaches who were living at hotels because they were here so early. I'm wondering, how much did that season and working with guys like Donnie Ecker and Kai Correa and Craig Albernez, maybe, how will that impact the way you go about this search?
Yeah, I mean, it's the attention to details, the little things. I think those are the margins. They've always been the margins. And you sit and you watch a season and you see some mistakes that are made that you feel like could have been prevented. Mistakes are always going to happen. That's part of the game. But yeah, having somebody that I think is important, that's willing to have a tough conversation with somebody. I mentioned in the press conference earlier about Boach, is like, I never considered Boach a friend when I was playing the game or when I was playing. I do now, but I think that type of relationship is important, that there needs to be a certain amount of reverence and respect that the players have for the manager, and ultimately know that the buck stops with that person.
A lot was made a year ago of the analytics staff and maybe the changes that were made there. As you had a year to think about all this, how do you feel you guys are doing in that department, and maybe where you stack up compared to other teams in the division?
Well, I don't really know how we stack up to other teams in the division, but I feel like we're in a good place. A lot of it, from what I could tell after doing this a year, is very dependent on the coaching staff. It depends on their willingness to receive some of the information, and then how much they want to use it. And I do think that that's a good process. I think that some players are more likely to go straight to an analyst and get the information, and that's okay too. So, the way I look at it is it's very much a piece to the larger picture of trying to get the most out of every single player.
Buster, knowing there's not maybe one specific player or even one aspect that can fix a team, what do you see as the biggest need for this team next year?
I think our focus is going to be on pitching, to try to fortify our starting staff. Same goes with the bullpen. I believe that pitching and defense wins, and so that's where we'll probably start looking this offseason when free agency does happen.
Along those same lines, pitching obviously was an issue at times for the team this season. What was your big takeaway about, I guess, the importance of pitching depth for a team?
Well, you always hear it. You can never have enough pitching. And I feel like we came into the year thinking that we had a nice amount of depth, and then by the end, it didn't feel like we had a lot of depth. So definitely a learning experience for me to know that that old adage is you never can have enough pitching is definitely true.
What did you learn about, I guess, young pitchers in particular? I mean, you said so much last offseason and this spring, and at the time it was true that the strength of this organization was young pitching, and ended up not really being for you there over the course of the year.
Yeah, I think Zach mentioned this in the press conference earlier. I think he was spot on that maybe some of them didn't make the strides that we were hoping for, but sometimes some of these lumps that you take as a young pitcher can prove to be valuable learning lessons. And we're still excited about some of these young arms that we have, and believe that there's a path for them to help us win games.
From the young arms to the most veteran arm in baseball, Justin Verlander, do you plan to have conversations with him this month about returning?
We're open. I mean, he's been great. He was a great teammate. I personally felt like he pitched, even when he was probably receiving a lot of criticism early in the year, felt like he was still in a place that was putting us in a spot that we could win games. Didn't get a ton of run support. Bullpen gave it up for him a little bit in some of those stretches, but then really turned it on towards the end of the season, and pretty remarkable. I mean, for a guy that's soon, I guess, turns 43 in the spring, to be able to go out and compete against guys that some are half his age is pretty impressive.
Going from the rotation to the bullpen, how do you begin to rebuild your bullpen?
Well, I think we look internally. We look at options that we have, AA, AAA, and then a big part of it will be for us is minor league free agents. Peguero was a guy this year that we signed as a minor league free agent, and came up and helped us down the stretch. So to me, it's internal. You're looking at minor league free agents, and then obviously major league free agents. You'll take that into consideration as well, and then the trade route's also a possibility.
It took a few months, but you did end up feeling pretty good about the Willie Adames contract and the Justin Verlander contract. Those were the two big moves last offseason. I mean, did that teach you anything just about maybe what you're able to add in an offseason if you are that aggressive? Just in terms of you guys kind of stopped there after that. I know you felt a lot of faith in the internal options, but just maybe you're now 2 for 2 with those two guys. Would you be more aggressive this offseason because you guys did a pretty good job, but even including somebody like Dom Smith that you got in season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way for me to answer that is that we'll most certainly look at options from every avenue that they can come from. And you take the information that you have, you use the relationships you've created, try to paint this picture that you feel like you can get behind, and that's what we'll do again this offseason.
Two young guys who are kind of up against the clock at this point, Marco Luciano and Luis Matos. Both of them finished a year in AAA. Marco played the entire season there. What do you think is the future for them in San Francisco?
Well, again, these are guys that have shown flashes of being great players, and they've taken their lumps as well. I think you understand that we are up against the clock for with those players, and they certainly know that this coming spring is monumental for them.
I remember the first day of spring training, you talked about Patrick and said, I had a talk with him and said, your goal is to lead the pitching staff. And that's the main thing I want to see from you. He did that. And I think he's going to win a second straight Gold Glove and might win a Platinum Glove. At the same time, offensively, it was really rough for him. How do you just kind of sum up his entire season and what you need to see from him going into next year?
I thought he made some really good strides defensively. We all know that he's the best framer in the game. I thought that there was more attention to detail on the other parts, the blocking, threw the ball great. Talking to our pitching staff, they were all really pleased with his preparation and game planning. And then I do think, he made some mechanical adjustments at the plate the last 3-ish weeks of the year. You saw him get a little bit more upright with his posture, what I like to call stacked with his hips and his shoulders, moved his hands back. It just seemed to simplify things for him. And so I'm hoping he feels pretty good about those offensive changes, because it was that's tough. That's tough to show up every day and struggle that much with the bat. So I'm happy for him and for us that there was some positive momentum there towards the end.
My last of many Bryce Eldridge questions to you this year. What did you take away from his 2 weeks? I mean, the strikeouts were there, but also I think his hard hit percentage, barrel percentage, everything was like league leading quality.
I think it's kind of what we anticipated we might see some swing and miss, hit the ball hard. I was impressed at some of his takes. I thought he did a nice job against some really tough pitchers. It's a big jump. It's a big jump from AAA to the big leagues, for a lot of different reasons. One is the quality of arms that you're seeing every day, every night, starting pitching, relief pitching. There were some takes against Yamamoto where like balls just under the zone that he did a nice job with. So it's exciting to have a guy that there's tremendous upside. I know he knows, and we all know there's a lot of room for growth still. And we're excited to keep watching that.
Do you still anticipate him being in a position next spring of come out and try to win a job, as opposed to going into next year planning for a roster with him tied onto it?
I think it's a possibility. Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I'll leave it at that. I think it's a possibility.
Buster, this team struggled with errors this season, 96 total errors. That's the 6th most in all of the majors. What are practical ways that you guys as a team can help solve those defensive issues?
I'm a big believer that with preparation comes confidence, and then your success that you have in the moment, that also lends itself to confidence. And then I think it's cyclical. So you understand that the preparation and the work that you put in led to that success and that confidence. So the hope is that it just keeps happening over and over again. So is it as simple as there's certain drills that you can do, certain spots that we can put the players in that will prevent some of these errors? I don't know if it's that simple. But I think there's possibilities there that doing some of those things will help us be in a better place.
You've been the president of baseball operations for a year now. Looking back on it, what caused you the most frustration this season, and what were your favorite parts of the season?
Most frustration. I think looking sometimes when we were going through a tough stretch and knowing that there was more there than what was being shown on the field, coupled with the fact that it was a different experience for me, watching and not participating and being just as invested as I was as a player, and knowing that you get to a certain point where the moves are kind of what they are. You get past the trade deadline and there's not, unless you're going to, go up and down with your minor league roster. So maybe some of that lack of the ability to feel like you can impact in the same way as you did as a player. I think what I enjoyed the most was seeing our players have success, all of them. I mean, it's understanding how incredibly difficult it is to play Major League Baseball. It's pretty gratifying to see your guys out there contributing to winning baseball games.
Buster, thanks for sitting down with us. Best of luck this offseason.
Thank you.